We meet Ebony, who has moved in a new house with 3 kids: Dre, Nate, and Shantae, and her mom Alberta. They're having dinner, and they make fun of Ebony's cooking, and Dre talks back to her mom. Ebony gets angry and hits him in face, which makes Dre bleed, and we see Ebony is short-tempered. Alberta asks if she has started drinking again, and Ebony says no and says sorry to Dre. We come to know their father is in army and is away on duty, and Shantae chats with him at night. Later, Ebony sees some flies in the house and smells something stinking and opens the basement door to drive the flies out. At night, Dre gets up and weirdly drinks milk, and suddenly a bird crashes in the window. Dre goes out and sees the bird is dead, and next morning Ebony gets a call for her car's loan repayment. Some kids tease and hit Nate and Dre while coming from school, and Ebony finds alcohol bottle. Nate comes home and tells her he hid the bottle from Ebony to prevent her from drinking. Ebony notices blood on him and goes to fight the kids who were teasing them, and goes and beats them. She warns them to not hit Nate again, and Alberta tells Ebony to control her anger and be calm. Ebony says she knows what kind of mother Alberta was and doesn't need any advice from her. Alberta asks her to visit church, and later Ebony notices Dre talking to his imaginary friend. At night, Ebony says for Shantae's birthday, she will cook everyone a nice meal instead of having a party. Shantae gets angry as she wants a party and a new phone, and goes to her room crying, saying she is tired of being poor. At night, Dre goes down in the basement, and Ebony hears some noise and smells something bad, and comes down and closes the basement door. Next day, Alberta wears her wig and goes to hospital for her cancer treatment and meets Melvin. She asks Melvin for a date, and he agrees, and later Alberta is reminded for payment for treatment. She says she will talk to her insurance agent, but she comes to know her insurance expired, and Ebony has been making payments. At night, Nate sees Ebony comes home after drinking, and Alberta meets her and thanks her for paying for her treatment. Later, Ebony has a dream, and she feels someone is in house and goes down and closes the basement door. She smells something bad and vomits, and Nate comes and asks her where is his money. Ebony says she hid the money and asks where he got his money from, and Nate says Dad sent him. He has been saving money so he can get out of here, and Ebony gets angry and hits him. Nate pushes her, and she falls down and gets up again to hit Nate. Dre sees this and comes to stop them. He falls down and gets hurt, and Nate goes from there, and later Ebony puts the money back. She tells Nate he is a good person and asks him to not leave her and go, and says she needs him. Next day, the cleaner finds a dead cat in the basement, and Nate pays him the money to clean it. Cynthia from Child Service Department has come to meet Ebony and see how the kids are doing. We come to know in past Ebony used to hit her kids when she was an alcoholic, but now she has changed. Cynthia notices some bruises of kids' bodies and asks them how they got it, but they don't remember. Cynthia tells Ebony to take proper care of her kids, otherwise their father will get their custody. She says she knows Ebony is still drinking and says this is her last chance to make things right. She goes away, and Ebony sees a woman sitting in a car outside who is looking at their house. At Shantae's birthday, Melvin sings a song and flirts with Alberta, and Ebony gives Shantae a new phone. Later, Ebony hears some noise and opens the basement door to see Dre banging his head on it. Dre doesn't remember how he went down and says his imaginary friend Trey took him there. She sees Dre has fever and puts him in bed, and later starts drinking and enjoys the party. Ebony's friend is angry on her for drinking again and fights with her and leaves, and Ebony notices Dre. He is standing alone in a corner, and she scolds him and sends upstairs, and Ebony goes to sleep. At night, Ebony and the kids hear some loud noises, and Ebony gets angry and goes up thinking the kids are not asleep. Alberta hears some screams and goes up, and the kids tell her Ebony threw them against the wall. Ebony does not remember anything, and Alberta asks her to leave, and next day the kids go to school. Ebony sees the crack in the wall and smells something bad again, and the kids behave weirdly at school. Nate starts laughing in class. Dre removes his pant and throws potty at his teacher, and Shantae gets her periods and starts bleeding. The kids look possessed, and Ebony gets a call from school and is shocked to know about this. The doctors do some tests but find nothing wrong with them, but Ebony isn't convinced. The doctor says it might be related due to stress at home and asks her about the bruises on kids. Alberta asks Ebony what happened last night and if she hit the kids, but Ebony says she is not like Alberta. They both have a fight, and Alberta says next time she will call the police if kids are hurt. At night, Ebony gives a bath to Dre and goes down to answer her phone and sees Alberta putting a cross. Alberta asks her to join her church, and Ebony says this is a temporary solution and hears Dre calling her. She goes up and sees Nate is drowning Dre, and she manages to stop him and pull Nate away. Alberta comes and is shocked to see this, and Nate says he does not remember why he drowned Dre. Next day, Cynthia comes to meet Ebony and tells her she needs to send her kids back to school. Ebony says the school isn't right for them, and the doctors are also not checking them well. She says something is wrong with her kids, but Cynthia believes she is asking her kids to behave this way. Cynthia says she lost her own son in an accident, and from that day she promised herself to help other kids. Cynthia says she should not take her kids for granted and says she needs to meet the kids. Alberta comes with a bat and scares Cynthia away and threatens the woman taking their pictures. Alberta goes to church and tells them there is something evil in their house, but they don't believe her and send her away. Later, Ebony meets the woman clicking their pictures who introduces herself as Bernice. She says there is an evil spirit in her house which is haunting the kids and tells her she can help her. Bernice shows a picture of a family which lived in the house 20 years ago and says their son was possessed by a demon. The boy was killed by the demon and the mother killed her husband, daughter, and herself. Alberta hears some noise and goes down and is attacked by the spirit, and Bernice says the boy who died was called Trey. Ebony says Dre calls his imaginary friend Trey, and Bernice says Trey is the devil who wants Dre. Ebony does not believe her and gets angry, but Bernice gives her card before leaving. Ebony comes home and sees the cross is burning and sees Alberta is dead, and the police take her body. Next day, Cynthia comes to take the kids, but Ebony has left with them in her car, and Shantae says she called Cynthia. Ebony gets angry on her, and Dre blames her of Alberta's death, and we see he is possessed. Ebony sees him and gets scared and nearly avoids an accident and goes in a bar to ask for help. They call Child Service Department, who come and question Ebony whether she is using drugs or alcohol. She says no, and Cynthia comes and tells her they are sending the kids to foster care. Ebony comes and meets Bernice and asks for her help, and Bernice says the demon wants to kill them all. He wants Dre, and he will kill others, and he preys on the weak, and right now, Ebony is weak. At hospital, Cynthia sees Dre is behaving weirdly, and many nurses cannot control him. Bernice tells Ebony she herself has to believe in God to save Dre, and they both do a prayer. Cynthia meets Dre, who speaks to her in demonic language and frees himself from his restraints. He climbs the wall and says he will kill her, and Cynthia is shocked and scared to see this. Ebony comes to the hospital dressed as a nurse and goes to Dre's room and escapes from there. She takes Dre in Bernice's car and takes him away to her house to do a ritual to free Dre. Bernice tells Ebony the devil will take appearance of different people to fool them and say anything to escape, but they should not listen to him. Bernice begins the ritual, and we see Dre was transformed into Alberta, who has sharp teeth and nails. Alberta says she will kill them both if she is not freed, and Nate, who is in different hospital, feels uneasy and vomits. Bernice begins her prayer, and Nate is also possessed by the demon, and Shantae also feels uneasy. The devil falls on the ground and starts behaving weirdly and laughs at Bernice, and the house starts shaking. Bernice tells Ebony to go upstairs, and the devil transforms in Dre and disappears from there. Bernice is attacked by the devil, who throws her away, and Nate and Shantae also start behaving weirdly. Ebony comes down and sees Dre has attacked Bernice, and he disappears, and Bernice her gives holy water. She tells Ebony to believe in herself and dies, and Ebony goes down in the basement to find Dre. Devil talks to her in Dre's voice, but Ebony throws holy water on him, and the devil attacks her and hits her. He changes in Ebony and tells her how bad mother she was, and then attacks her. Ebony hits her head repeatedly, and the bones in her body break on their own, and he is badly injured. She calls God for help, and the devil tries to choke her to death with its foot, and Ebony recalls her good times with her kids. She believes she can save her kids, and stands up to fight the devil, who tells her no one loves her. Ebony says her family loves her and begins saying a prayer, and the devil gets scared and tells her not to do so. She continues saying her prayers, and Nate and Shantae also feel the effect of this. Shantae floats up in the air and bleeds, and Nate eats his own hand to save himself. The prayer starts working and the devil is caught on fire and is pulled down in the ground. Shantae and Nate are also saved and look normal, and later Ebony wakes up and searches for Dre. She finds him unconscious near the hole and sees he is safe and normal. Next day, Cynthia comes to meet Ebony, who is packing her luggage to move from this house. Cynthia says she will support Ebony in getting her kids back and will also talk to the judge. Ebony thanks her and gives her a cross as gift, and we come to know she got her kids back after 6 months. Later we see they're going to their new house, and Ebony tells the kids she is talking with their dad, and they are ready to sort their difference. The kids are happy to hear this, as they will get to stay with their parents together again.